For over 2 decades, South Park has served us a front row seat to the twisted, hilarious, and slightly terrifying mind of Eric Theodore Cartman.
Piss out your ass right onto Kyle's mom's fat Jew face!
Well, here come the YouTube censors speeding down the highway.
Oh, yeah, I can see them. Ah, no! Get away from me! We're talking about a kid who has pretty much gotten away with murder, literally, if you count that one time when he and Scott Tenman... You know what, never mind, let's skip that part. There are moments when Cartman takes his schemes to a whole new level of evil, leaving us questioning what's really going on underneath that beanie of his. Like in Up the Down Steroid, where he reminds us once again that his moral compass isn't just broken, it's been thrown into a blender, pureed, and served as a side dish in hell.
You're an asshole, Cartman. What'd I do?
Like we haven't all heard that one before. So it all starts when Jimmy and Timmy prep for the Special Olympics. They're pretty excited about the event, so naturally they share the details with the boys.
Timmy and I were wondering if maybe you would come and cheer for us. We're both competing in the Special Olympics down in Denver.
Sadly, Jimmy commits the blunder of handing the event brochure to Cartman, and I think we can already tell how that's going to play out.
Timmy and I are competing in a variety of events.
After that, they head to the gym to continue preparations, at which point we're treated to some good old-fashioned blood, sweat, and tears that end with, you guessed it, steroids.
7.
Inject this directly into your bloodstream.
So Jimmy's about to go from being unable to bench 7 reps to being built like a frackin' truck. But before we dive into that, we have to pivot back to Cartman. After being handed the brochure, Cartman gives it a good look and sees the $1,000 cash prize for the winner of the event.
At the end, a grand champion special athlete is crowned and given a cash prize of $1,000.
Which of course lights up a very evil bulb over his head.
If somebody just pretended, they could easily win the competition and get the $1,000.
Brilliant, in the same way a dumpster fire is illuminating. Stan and Kyle, broken records of morality that they are, tell him that this is a terrible idea.
Cartman, no. I'll act like I have a disability, and when the time comes to compete, I'll kick ass against all the handicapped.
But as we know, Cartman isn't one to bail on his ideas, especially the bad ones.
That's really terrible, dude. Terrible? Whatever, you guys' brains just can't compute complex plans like mine can.
So he ignores their advice and commits to his preparations, if you can call them that. Yeah, that is indeed a handicap walk analysis. Basically what you'd expect from someone prepping for an Oscar in the worst human ever category. He reads books on how to act special, sits on the short bus taking notes, and even gives himself a janky haircut to squeeze into his deformed bike helmet. By the time Cartman is done with his little transformation, the only thing missing is a poorly crafted note from Arkham Asylum.
Hey guys, what's going on? God damn you.
While Cartman is busy relishing in his sadly passable gimmick, Kyle points out to him that he needs a legal guardian to sign him up.
You have to have a parent with you to sign up for the Special Olympics. What?
Which pretty much points to Cartman's mom, who Kyle is convinced wouldn't play ball. But here's the thing, there's playing ball, and then there's being manipulated by Cartman, who puts on his best gaslighting mask and serenades her home.
I could just spend one day in their shoes. If I could just see the challenges they face every day, maybe I wouldn't be so cold.
Yeah, let's just cut this short. We'll skip to the part where she falls for it, because we all know that she's going to.
All right, sweetie, I'll take you tomorrow.
And so it falls to Kyle once again to try and speak some sense in Cartman, only his attempt was the equivalent of a drunk with a loaded shotgun. It's just a sad sight to watch.
This time I think you really need to reconsider. I believe you will go to hell.
Talk about shooting yourself in the foot. Of course, we get to Cartman bringing up the Passion of Christ and all the Jews going to, you know where.
Hell is reserved for the Jews, and all those who don't accept Christ. That being the case, it is actually me who is worried about your soul. Came here to talk about you. Yes, and instead you had a breakthrough yourself. This is really the beginning of a whole new chapter of your life, Kyle.
While the two of them are busy debating the fine details of Satan's abode, there's a storm brewing elsewhere.
You seem different. You're not the boy I fell in love with last week during free period. I'm leaving you.
You see, back in Steroidville, population 1, Jimmy's transformation has gone from normal gym rat to full-on Hulk Hogan, which of course comes with a bit of roid rage now and then.
Stay away from me, you stupid...
I mean, is it even an authentic roid rage if Samuel Barber's Adagio for strings isn't playing in the background? So back to Cartman, because of course it always comes back to Cartman.
Yeah! Yeah!
Hello there. I would like to sign my son up, please.
Yeah!
Fast forward to the event, and he struts in like he's about to dominate.
Take your mark! Yeah! Yeah!
Only surprise, surprise, there's a huge difference between being handicapped and being a walking jello tank. And so, once the gunshot sounds, it's pretty obvious where Cartman's going to end up.
What the hell?
Watching him come in dead last in every event, pure catharsis. The Olympics end with Jimmy coming in first and winning the $1,000 prize.
The 2004 special athlete is Jimmy Vollmer.
Yeah!
Cartman, on the other hand, gets a $50 gift card to Shakey's Pizza because the universe somehow always has a soft spot for chunky little sociopaths.
But we all know that the Special Olympics isn't just about winning. We will now give out the Spirit Award to the handicapped person who came in very last, Eric Cartman.
But just as he's accepting his consolation prize, Jimmy, who's basically roided to the gills, recognizes Cartman and is about to take him to Suplex City.
Just what the hell do you think you're doing, Eric? Faked being handicapped to win? I should kick your ass right here, you lousy no-good cheater!
At which point, Timmy pulls up to point out Jimmy's obvious hypocrisy because, again, the universe really has a soft spot for our plus-sized miscreant.
Timmy! What? Timmy. Oh my god, you're right, Timmy.
The episode ends with Jimmy giving a heartfelt speech about how cheating is very wrong. The crowd eats it up, Jimmy's redeemed, and Cartman, well, he shamelessly spins the entire fiasco as a master plan to teach Jimmy about the dangers of steroids, because no matter how low you think Cartman has sunk, he's always got a shovel.
I guess now you see what I was up to all along. I dressed up like a handicapped person and lost the Special Olympics on purpose so that Jimmy could learn his lesson about steroids.
A shovel he used to dig himself into quite the hole in Season 7, Episode 11, Kasa Bonita.
You're not going to find him. Not until after Saturday when I finally go to Kasa Bonita.
So Kyle arrives at Stan's house to announce that for his birthday, his mom is taking him and 3 friends to Kasa Bonita. It's pretty much the Disneyland of Mexican restaurants, so naturally Kyle's birthday is now Cartman's.
Wow, Kasa Bonita! Woo-hoo!
However, just as Cartman's doing the salsa, Kyle pretty much stops him dead in his tracks.
Who said I'm inviting you?
Your mom said you could take 3 friends.
3 friends. You're not my friend.
To be fair, Kyle, Cartman is a unique kind of friend. The kind whose love language is casual anti-Semitism and ruining lives. Hard to put that on the Hallmark card.
Yeah, well, you're a stupid Jew. Good job, Jew. Shut your goddamn Jew mouth. Jew.
Jew. Dude, he's Jewish.
Jew. Jew. Shut Jew. You're Jewish. Jew. 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 Jew.
I told you Jewish people don't have rhythm.
Anyway, Kyle decides to invite Butters instead because Butters invited Kyle over for his own birthday.
I'm gonna take Butters. He invited me to his birthday party last month, so I owe him one.
Naturally, Cartman doesn't take the rejection well, and by doesn't take it well, I mean he spirals into a full-blown psychotic episode in his bedroom.
You, Kyle, I hope you die.
I'm not inviting you, Cartman.
After one too many hallucinations about Kasa Bonita, Cartman decides to go and try to be nice to Kyle to change his mind. Emphasis on try, because, I mean, just look.
Take that, Timmy! Don't you ever talk bad about Kyle again! And if you say you had with his mom one more time, I'm gonna really let you have it!
You really think that beating up a handicapped kid is being nice?
I mean, it's Cartman, so it kind of checks out. Undeterred, he pivots to plan B, reverse psychology.
How are you going to try to get invited to Kasa Bonita?
I'm not, Kyle. I know you already told Butters he could go.
He tells Kyle that he totally doesn't care about Kasa Bonita and apologizes, sort of.
I'm still not inviting you to Kasa Bonita.
I know, Kyle. I see you later.
Kyle, feeling generous, offers him a deal. If Butters can't make it, Cartman can go. And if there's one thing Cartman excels at, it's turning if into when, and also making Butters' life a living hell.
For the past 5 days, I've been looking out into space for a school project. This morning, I caught first sight of something terrible.
Cartman quickly goes to work tricking Butters, who, bless his heart, is as naive as a roe deer, into thinking that a meteorite the size of Wyoming is heading towards South Park.
No, but I don't see it. Oh my god! I see it! Oh my god!
Oh my god!
On second thought, maybe he's just dumber than a bag of hammers. With Butters already reeled in, Cartman rolls out the old doomsday narrative and shoves Butters into a bomb shelter to ride out the apocalypse.
Here we go! Bomb shelter's down here!
Oh god! Oh Jesus!
We should be safe in here. Dried food and water to last us for weeks.
Butters is safely out of the picture, and Cartman is next in line for Kasa Bonita. The only problem is, there's only so long a child can go missing before, you know, the whole town becomes one big search party.
All right, folks, this is the little boy we're looking for.
Which so happens to be the very next evening, just as Cartman thinks he's hit the home run.
Dude, we should check over at Stark's Pond. Butters always hangs out over there.
I'll drive you boys.
Oh, god damn it!
With his plans crumbling all around him, Cartman dashes to where he stashed Butters for some more doomsday world building, complete with a societal collapse, radioactive cannibals, and a mission to quote-unquote rebuild society.
There was mass confusion. People were crawling all over each other in the streets. It was awful. Millions were evaporated instantly. The rest of us walking around in a cloud of toxic radiation.
By the time the search effort extends to bomb shelters, because apparently no one bothered to look down all those large metal hatches where a kid could, I don't know, fall in, Cartman is forced to lead Butters out of the shelter and into a garage where he chucks him into, and I kid you not, a broken fridge.
Don't open this door for anybody, Butters. Stay inside for 4 days.
Eric, you're the best friend in the whole world.
Honestly, you gotta admire the dedication. From this point on, it looks as if Cartman is finally home and dry. He's on his way to Kasa Bonita, and Butters is tucked away safely, but the universe loves a good plot twist, so the fridge ends up being hauled off to a dump. Butters pops out and begins rebuilding the Earth, at which point he runs into another survivor.
You're at the garbage dump. Town is right over there. Everybody is fine. They've been looking for you for over a week.
Back in the real world, Kyle starts to suspect Cartman's sudden nice guy act is about as real as Man Bear Pig.
I should have known better. You never cared about my birthday at all.
The jig is officially up when Butters returns home and spills the beans about Cartman's scheme. But instead of accepting defeat, Cartman goes on a rampage throughout Kasa Bonita like a crackhead at Costco,
It's too late, fat ass. They'll be here in less than a minute.
Yeah!
Ah!
Less than a minute! Less than a minute!
cramming every last attraction into a minute-long sprint before the police end up catching him.
You made an entire town panic. Now you're going to juvenile hall for a week. Was it worth it?
Totally.
And you know what else is totally not worth it? That time Cartman dragged the boys to Somalia for some high-seas adventure.
This is your pirate boat? Dude, what kind of pirates are you? Dude,
Can already tell this is going to be a very long episode. This one kicks off the way most South Park disasters do, with Cartman barging in uninvited, big ideas spilling from his even bigger mouth. He crashes lunch with the boys, pitching his latest fever dream about them all running away to Somalia and becoming pirates.
We can finally leave this crappy town and live the life we've all dreamed of! What are you talking about, dude? Haven't you assholes been watching the news? Pirating is back, my friends. Swashbuckling adventure on the high seas. The stuff we've all dreamed about, and it's all happening right here. Somalia.
As expected, Butters and a few others are drawn to the idea, and surprisingly also Kyle, who, let's just say, is a bit too supportive of Cartman's new escapade.
That is an awesome idea. You should totally go to Somalia.
Right, and wait a minute.
A shot at getting rid of Cartman? Alrighty! That's not gonna work. Cartman almost starts to piece the obvious danger puzzle together, at which point Kyle pulls one from Cartman's own playbook.
And why don't you want to go?
Cause, dude, I'm Jewish, and Jews can't be pirates.
So Cartman takes the bait and begins setting up a pirate recruitment drive.
And now for a special announcement.
Avast there, mateys! Do you have a thirst for adventure on the high seas of life? Then join Captain Cartman's perfect pirate club. Arg!
By the time he's done making his rounds, his motley crew consists of Butters, no surprise there,
Congratulations on leaving your meaningless lives to become pirates.
Kevin, Clyde, and Gordon, though Gordon gets yeeted almost instantly because, well, Cartman hates gingers. And to round out the crew, because Kyle just had to tempt fate, his junior brother Ike comes aboard the adventure. The five of them make it to the airport, and like clockwork, they start sweating bullets, at which point Cartman rallies the troops with some grade A manipulation.
Do you really want to just go back to school where people just make fun of you?
You mean you?
Yes! Do you really want to go back to that?
No, I'm sick of it.
The boys jet off to Somalia, no thanks to the brainless airport officials who somehow cleared 5 frackin' children to travel alone.
We be heading to Somalia, by way of Miami to Cairo. And take care you put us in an exit row, you landlubber.
I see.
So off to Somalia they go, only to step off the plane and find, well, not the tropical paradise Cartman promised.
This is Somalia?
Where's all the waterfalls and shipwreck lagoons?
You might want to consult a geography textbook next time, but then again, Americans. Dab me up! We got Google for that. Anyway, despite the setback, and I may be understating that, Cartman stays delusional and leads the crew to the local pirate bar, ignoring warnings because when has he ever listened to anything, ever?
Thank you.
They barge into the pirate den and one language barriered conversation later are taken as hostages by the pirates. Shocker. But as they say, one man's kidnapping is another kid's recruitment.
Yes, very nice.
I don't know, it's Cartman. To him, the pirates are now his new crew members.
All right, me hearties, keep your eyes open for boats to plunder.
The first ship on the horizon turns out to be a French vessel. The pirates approach it to ransom the kids, and a few minutes later, they're 5,000 euros richer. Cartman and the crew, on the other hand, are now safe on the French ship, and if you're quite familiar with Cartman's delusions, you know the story is far from over.
Quiet, you sons of biscuit eaters! Boat is now pirate property! That's it, get in there, you swarmy dogs!
Scoundrel! Vous le paierez cher!
That's good, now bring her around topside! Now that's a pirate ship.
Meanwhile, back in South Park, Kyle's having a blissful Cartman-free week until his parents discover Ike's disappearance. One read of Ike's goodbye note and Kyle's problem-solved moment quickly turns into a what have I done?
I'm going to Somalia to be a pirate. Oh,
So he laces up his boots and heads to Mogadishu to save his brother, where Captain Cartman, thanks to his recent antics and some fairly convenient translation issues, is now the Pirate King of Somalia.
Somalian pirates be tricky laddie-doo. We'll shoot you in the face with glee.
Luffy should have hit him up. Apparently it's not so hard. So of course we get a sea shanty, because why not?
We left our homes and we left our mothers. We'll cut off your ears and make you drink our pee.
Catchy, horrifying, and 100% on brand. Kyle arrives moments later. And if you guess that Cartman makes him walk the plank, then you might be pirate material after all. Or you just know this character.
Walk the plank, you scurvy dog. Cartman, knock it off. Captain Cartman, you Jew swaggo.
Luckily for Kyle, Ike and Butters were having some sense talked into them by one of the pirates who made them see just how blessed their lives in America were.
My father was killed trying to find food for us. I don't want to be a pirate. I don't see how anybody would.
And so they come rushing down to put a stop to Cartman's madness, only he's not exactly keen on giving up power.
Is there any question who's in charge?
Before any of them can even breathe, all the pirates drop to the floor thanks to good old Uncle Sam. Can't say we didn't see that one coming. But what I definitely didn't see coming was the entirety of Crack Baby Athletic Association. To call this episode unhinged would be putting it mildly. I mean, just look at this.
Donald's French fries and KFC gravy. The French call this poutine.
Yep, just him and Kyle chilling in a gravy hot tub. But you're wondering how it came to this, and where you can get your hands on one of them. Well, luckily, today's video is sponsored by Gravy Hot Tub. So Stan and Kyle are enjoying a Cartman-free day in front of the TV, watching their favorite show, Terrence and Phillip. A few fart-heavy scenes later, and the episode pauses for the mid-show commercials. Only it's not some sleazy salesman trying to sell them stuff, but a Sarah McLachlan speech about crack babies.
It's that super sad Sarah McLachlan commercial. Dude, this is the saddest commercial ever. Don't watch.
And yet, Kyle watches, because we all do. And like clockwork, he's guilt-tripped into volunteering at the local hospital, and it is there he meets the star of today's video, Eric Theodore Cartman.
What are you doing here? I'm volunteering my time, Cal.
Has been here every day for the past 2 weeks, bless his heart.
We all know the only things Cartman has ever blessed are his wallet and stomach. Kyle decides to investigate further, and after following Cartman out of the hospital and into a shady building, stumbles upon his little operation consisting of him, Butters, Clyde, and Craig, with the biggest shock of all being the nature of the operation itself.
All right, what is it? Crack baby basketball.
Dude, and it gets even worse when you hear the details, because it involves taking crack-addicted babies, giving them a ball stuffed with crack, and live streaming their games for profit. If there was ever a time for Kyle to be singing like a canary, this was definitely it. However, he begins to have different ideas when he hears the numbers involved.
We made $1,000 in 11 days. You what?
After all the depraved, insane ideas this fricker has had, this is the one you choose to co-sign, Kyle? But hey, who can say no to some sweet, sweet pocket money? Certainly not them. We get a Wall Street-esque montage with the loud music, endless bacon, and Cartman trying to sell Kyle the idea.
Started with 2 crack babies and a camera. We've built up to 1,000 hits a day.
His pitch works. Kyle becomes the company's accountant because we all have to live one stereotype, right?
Somebody's got to eat all that bacon, Cal. Might as well be us. Welcome to the firm.
And so, for the first time in, well, forever, all the pieces of Cartman's scheme has fallen into place, along with all the people around him. Except for Stan, of course, who pretty much just leaves them all to whatever madness they're up to. And normally, that's well and fine for Cartman. But not for Kyle, who, let's just say, cares very much for what Stan thinks.
We're not the ones that made them crack babies. That's their mom's goddamn fault. I'm sure that's what Cartman would say, too. I do not sound like Cartman, goddammit!
And that, my friends, is why you do not stare into the abyss for too long. After several failed attempts at reconciling the obvious moral vacuum in their operation, Kyle begins to pitch several ideas on how to fix that, including using some of the profits to build an orphanage for the crack babies. How considerate.
I've designed it to be the best place for them to live. A place where they can have care and happiness. And if you think it's a bad idea, I really don't care.
And to his own surprise, Cartman agrees, because where Kyle sees goodwill, Cartman sees PR and a whole factory for crack babies. But their entire plan, including the orphanage, still rests on them bagging the EA deal. The deal with EA Sports goes through, but in true corporate fashion, they completely screw over the kids.
We were gonna build an orphanage, so the crack babies have somewhere to go.
Well, and you too. I'm pissing your faces.
And just like that, the Crack Baby Association is dead in the water. But then, in a bizarre twist, the orphanage actually gets built thanks to Slash of Guns N' Roses.
No way.
Very long story, so let's just leave it at that, but at least we learned one thing here. Cartman's schemes may be evil, but at least they're never dull. Still riding the wave of child exploitation, we gear up for what might actually be Cartman's most depraved venture to date.
You're gonna love these fetuses, Larry. They're top notch.
Believe me, that's even worse with the context. In Kenny Dies, Cartman's twisted climb to financial freedom starts with an overturned truck carrying stem cells harvested from unwanted fetuses.
This is to go to Alder's labs for stem cell research?
Not exactly what you hear every day, I know. So he stumbles upon this biological gold mine, and his first thought, of course, is to stash it away in his backyard. Naturally, he invites the boys over, hyping it up like he's about to announce the next tech startup.
Guess what I have sitting in my backyard? Better. A boat? Better. A trampoline? Better. Well, what, Cartman? 33 aborted fetuses.
But when he unveils his stash of fetuses and pitches his plan to flip them for profit, you can literally hear the tumbleweeds rolling around. Oh, look, I think there's one now. Now, keep in mind that at this point, they've pretty much seen it all with Cartman, but with the bar now seemingly finding new circles of hell, the boys as expected pretty much bail.
I don't need you assholes. I can sell these fetuses all on my own.
With the potential cure for cancer in his grubby little hands, Cartman goes to work cold calling research centers like he's pitching used cars.
I'm currently in possession of some aborted fetuses. I'm looking to unload. How much do you pay? Come on, I got a guy in Cleveland who's gonna give me $80 a pound right now.
He actually lands a buyer because of course he does.
All right, we got a deal. Damn, I'm good.
But just as he's about to cash in, he's blindsided by a new law banning stem cell research.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, but we can't buy those from you now.
What? We made a deal, Gary. I brought them all the way down here, I-80.
Congress 1, Cartman 0. Meanwhile, Stan and Kenny are at school like, regular kids, at which point they're pulled into the principal's office, like regular kids.
Stan and Kyle, principal needs to see you in her office.
Principal, oh, come on.
And naturally, they imagine it has to do with Cartman's latest escapade, but instead, they're just hit with devastating news.
Your little friend Kenny went to the hospital last night. He's pretty sick.
Yeah, this bombshell kicks off a roller coaster of grief for Stan and Kyle as they head over to Cartman's house to fill him in. Cartman, meanwhile, now has a whole bunch of unsold merchandise, shall we call them that.
God damn it!
In between trying to hold a flash sale for them and Kenny's news, you can tell which one hit him harder.
They told us he has a muscular disease. He might die. Die? Don't you say that. Kenny's not gonna die.
Okay, so we got Cartman's fetus business, Kenny's terminal disease, and Stan's denial. There's a lot going on in this episode. So the three boys visit Kenny in the hospital where they finally confirm for themselves the bitter truth.
Hey, look who has some visitors. Ooh, what a lucky little man.
At this point, Stan runs out of the room, causing Kyle to chase after him, leaving Cartman alone with Kenny. And in a rare moment of vulnerability, he tells Kenny that he's always considered him his best friend.
I don't know if I ever told you this, Kenny, but I kind of always thought you were my best friend.
Probably because Stan and Kyle are a package deal, and promises to find a cure. They then bolt out of the room to cry, at which point a returning Kyle spots him.
Cartman? Oh, Kyle. Hey, what's going down, Jew boy?
Cartman's still Cartman, alright. Inspired to save Kenny, Cartman dives into stem cell science. Turns out those magic cells can replicate and repair damaged tissue. Exactly what Kenny needs.
If a little boy was dying from a muscular disease, stem cells could become new muscle tissue.
That's the theory.
Fueled by what might be his first ever noble intention, Cartman spearheads a campaign to lift the stem cell ban. But Congress? Yeah, no, they're not exactly known for being moved by heartfelt pleas, so Cartman ups the ante.
Do you remember when we used to dance and incidents arose from circumstance? It was the heat of the moment, what your heart meant.
And you come all this way, and you really just start to think to yourself, man, it's really admirable how far that he goes for Kenny here. When the ban is finally lifted, Cartman wastes no time getting back to work, which in his world includes harassing pregnant women into donating. Old habits die hard.
Now that the ban on stem cell research has been lifted, we can sell your fetus to companies like Alder Lab.
Unfortunately, it's too little too late. Kenny actually passes away, leaving the town to mourn at his funeral.
Oh no.
And as the service is going on, Cartman bursts in with news of a miracle. The boys rush outside thinking it has to do with Kenny, only to find...
What, Cartman? What's happened? I put the stem cells from all the fetuses I had next to Shakey's, replicating a new Shakey's.
So all that running around and rallying for Kenny was all for his very own pizza place. Evil? Certainly. Cartman? Definitely. And if you thought his profiting off of Kenny's death was a one-time thing, then I raise you none other than best friends forever.
We'll see about this, this, you freaking Jew! I'm gonna get that feeding tube removed if I have to go all the way to the Supreme Court!
Translation, it's time for Kenny to go. So the saga begins with Cartman kicking down his mom's door at the crack of dawn. Why? The PSP is dropping and Cartman needs to get it first for bragging rights.
Sony PSP game machine goes on sale at 7 a.m. today. I have to be the first to get one.
After dragging his half-conscious mom to Luav's toys, he's greeted by the worst-case scenario.
What the hell?
See, that's why I switched to PC. So Cartman spots Kenny in front, and like a good friend or a leech, he wiggles his way to Kenny's side, hoping to cut in line.
I just sort of game.
And if you have any experience lining up like that, you know it lasted about 2 seconds before he was booted to the back of the line.
Hey, Paul, what do you think you're doing?
There's no saving places. Get to the back or we'll beat your face in.
And as if Cartman's day couldn't get any worse, the PSPs sell out before his turn. Kenny, on the other hand, has one, along with a game called Heaven vs. Hell, which is somehow addictive enough to make Kenny ignore 2 very large distractions walking by. Let's go! Gamers! But of course, there's only so long you can go without paying attention to your surroundings, and just as Kenny is mid-emote celebrating reaching level 60, the Ice Cream Man comes out to play. Woohoo! I did it!
Level 4, sweet!
So Kenny dies again, and he's whisked off to heaven, where, check this out, God is a gamer himself and was behind the whole PSP thing.
To determine who on Earth had the best skills to defeat the armies of Satan, the Sony PSP was built by God.
And as it turns out, heaven needed a new head gamer to lead their army against hell, and Kenny's been handpicked for the job. So of course he had to be run over by a truck, because how else is the boy supposed to die painlessly? Sarcasm, by the way. Back in the land of the living, Stan, Kyle, and a green with envy Cartman are summoned to Kenny's attorney's office, where Kenny's death is announced. Cue the collective indifference, because again, this isn't Kenny's first rodeo with death. Only this time he's left them with a little something.
In the highly likely event of my death, I wish to leave all my belongings to my good friends Stan and Kyle.
As for Cartman, well, he finally gets what he's been envious about throughout the whole episode, that being Kenny's new PSP.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah, baby!
Out of pity, I might add. Of course, he becomes the most animated person in the room, but just before his devious sausage fingers can get a hold of the PSP, someone comes in with a special announcement.
He's alive! Kenny McCormick! He's alive at the hospital!
Oh my god!
Yeah. Cartman joins Stan and Kyle at the hospital where they discover that Kenny is in a vegetative state. Kenny's father is conflicted over whether Kenny would prefer to remain hooked to the machine or not, and since the will from earlier is missing the last page that outlines all that,
I don't know if it's right to keep Kenny alive on that machine.
No one can say for sure what Kenny would want, except for Cartman, of course.
Oh, I just remembered. Kenny told me this one time that he wouldn't want to be kept alive by a feeding tube.
Yet no one's buying that. Least of all Stan and Kyle, who push back against Cartman's lies. And so he decides to move on to phase 2 of his plan. He digs up a totally legitimate BFF medallion, claiming it makes him Kenny's ultimate decision maker.
Kenny and I have been BFF since first grade. Here, look. Kenny has the other half of this BFF necklace. I believe you all know what that means.
And since this is the same Supreme Court that gave the green light to nuke Imagination Land, Cartman got his victory. Feeding tube out. PSP back in his grubby little hands, all in a day's work.
Afraid I've been given a court order to remove Kenny's feeding tube.
Meanwhile, the rest of the town, Stan, Kyle, Kenny's parents, and a hodgepodge of protesters are busy waging a full-on media war to save Kenny, and at the same time,
don't kill Kenny! You bastards! Don't kill Kenny! You bastards!
Cartman's rallying his own army. Not of angels, but of best friends forever truthers.
We all have BFFs. BFF is the highest legal authority.
That's right. Respect our authority.
The chaos climaxes the live TV showdown at Kenny's bedside, but just as the crowd's about to riot, Kenny's lawyer shows up with the missing page of his will.
If I should ever be in a vegetative state, please don't ever show me in that condition on national television.
Yep. Alrighty. Awkward silence ensues, and for the first time in the episode, everyone, even Cartman, just freaking backs off. Kenny finally dies again, heads back to heaven, and saves the day. Cartman gets his PSP, Stan and Kyle are scarred for life, and the world just keeps on spinning. Now, not all of Kyle's evil schemes revolve around material possessions, as we see in Season 8, Episode 3, The Passion of the Jew. I think it's better we don't translate that one, but let's just say it doesn't bode too well for Kyle here. So it's another day in South Park, and the boys are doing what boys do, role-playing in Cartman's mom's shiny new minivan. Naturally, Cartman self-appoints himself captain of chaos and immediately sets his sights on Kyle, labeling him a Vulcan Jew.
Shut up about about Jews, fat ass. You don't know anything.
Kyle and Cartman, as you'd expect, quickly get into a war of words, at which point Cartman references his latest obsession, The Passion of the Christ, a movie which he's apparently seen 34 times. Yes, 34.
I saw Mel Gibson's movie The Passion. Says in the movie, Jews are the devil. I've seen The Passion 34 times now, Kyle.
And has convinced them once and for all that Jews are the root of all evil. So they continue to argue, at which point Stan and Kenny decide that they've had enough and bail. But before Kyle can join them, Cartman drops a challenge.
If you're not scared of The Passion, then go see it. Go see it and tell me I'm wrong.
And because Kyle's not one to back down, he does. He goes to see the movie, hoping to shut Cartman up. But instead of finding enlightenment, Kyle's hit with, well, 2 hours of blood, screams, and more blood. Kyle leaves the theater a broken shell of himself, questioning his entire existence.
How? How could the Jews do that to Jesus?
And the most un-Kyle-like thing imaginable, he shows up at Cartman's house and utters the 3 words no one should ever say to Eric Cartman.
You were right.
Cartman, now drunk off of validation, cranks his God complex up to 11. He prays to a photo of Mel Gibson, dons a Nazi uniform, and rallies a group of equally clueless Passion fans in his backyard. And by clueless, I mean these people think Cartman's broken German is Aramaic from the movie.
Wir müssen die Juden ausrotten!
What does that mean, dear?
Oh, I think it's Aramaic. You know, like in the movie.
Meanwhile, Kyle's guilt spirals out of control. He's haunted by nightmares of crucifying Jesus. So he seeks advice from Father Maxie, who suggests atonement. And what does Kyle do with this advice? Well, he proposes the Jewish community apologize for killing Jesus.
The Jewish community needs to apologize for the death of Jesus.
What?
Back in Cartman's corner with his little army, they march down to the local synagogue right as the Jewish community is in mid-meltdown, essentially. A few PTSDs later, and the entire synagogue is marching straight down to the local theater. In the meantime, Stan and Kenny, who decided to watch the movie and hated it, decide to travel all the way to Malibu to get a refund from Mel Gibson himself. And since we're in the realm of cartoon-level lunacy, our favorite director is missing a few screws.
This means war!
I don't have a comment for this one. Back in South Park, Cartman's parade of delusion collides headfirst with the Jewish community's counter-march. It's a mess of bad translations, misplaced morality, and awkward showdowns.
That's right!
How dare you!
Just when things are about to boil over, Stan and Kenny burst onto the scene with Mel Gibson literally chasing them all the way back to town. And since Gibson clearly belongs in a straitjacket here, he ends up driving like he's already in one, crashing his gas truck into the theater. Honestly, at this point, just throw in Optimus Prime and call it a day. He is Jewish, after all.
Optimus Prime? He's Jewish?
In the end, Stan delivers a mic drop moment, reminding everyone that Christianity is about following Jesus' teachings, understanding the impact of why he died.
You should follow what Jesus taught instead of how he got killed.
This truth bomb pops Cartman's fascist fantasy bubble and snaps Kyle out of his guilt trip. Cartman, defeated but still as delusional as ever, tries to salvage his plan, only to be humiliated one last time by Mel Gibson. Don't you just love a happy ending? So move on from one hate-filled crusade to another hate-filled crusade, brought to you once again by Eric Theodore Cartman. And now he's a ginger. So Cartman's transformation in Ginger Kids kicks off with him standing in front of the class, giving what he thinks is a groundbreaking TED Talk.
My speech is entitled Ginger Kids, children with red hair, light skin, and freckles.
Only instead of inspiring innovation, he's busy spewing some of the most unhinged nonsense South Park Elementary has ever heard.
This disease is called gingivitis, and it occurs because ginger kids have no souls.
So Ginger Kids, according to Cartman, are creepy, soulless creatures cursed with a disease, and just to really sell it, he throws in comparisons to vampires complete with visuals that make a flat earther blush. And surprise, surprise, the whole classroom buys it, except for Kyle, of course.
That's not true, fat ass. I have red hair, and I don't have to avoid the sun. I was getting to that if you'll let me.
And by that he means making Kyle the face of daywalkers. So it's left to Kyle to once again wrestle the school from Cartman's maniacal grip, and so he promises to come to school the next day with a complete counter presentation, and it turns out to be a solid effort.
A child's red hair is not determined by the lack of a soul, but by the melanins which control the pigment in all of our skin.
But let's just say that Cartman at this point had the whole class in a chokehold.
Ginger kids are evil. Do you know who was Ginger? Judas. And what did Judas do? Oh, he just got Jesus killed, that's all.
I mean, with a delivery like that, you might as well just start sharpening the pitchforks. And so it doesn't take long for the school to go all apartheid as Token, Craig, and the gang start shoving a ginger kid into the hallway to eat his lunch alone.
Can't eat in the cafeteria.
How come? Ginger kid's eating the hallway.
Seeing how Cartman's speech has now become the gospel truth, Kyle decides to go on an obscure route to teach him a lesson. That night, the boys break into Cartman's house, knock him out cold.
Dude, okay, he's out. Kyle, that's good.
And yeah, maybe a bit too overzealous there, but once he's out, they give him the makeover of his nightmares. When he wakes up the next morning, it's Ginger Cartman staring back at him in the mirror. Red hair, pale skin, freckles, the whole cursed package.
So I'm gonna stay like this forever?
I'm sorry, son.
For a moment, you think, maybe this'll humble him, as the kids at school all begin to shun him.
You're not supposed to be in the cafeteria. You know the rule. No ginger kids in the cafeteria.
At which point, Cartman's brain does what it does best, pivots from victim to villain. He decides that if society hates gingers, the problem isn't him, it's society. And what do you do in the face of such oppression? Well, you start a ginger separatist movement.
A rapidly growing organization called the Ginger Separatist Movement is furious that the lead role of Annie is being played by a girl who isn't actually red-haired and freckled.
And they make the local news. By the way, their concern is pretty valid. Only they decide to go about making their voices heard the Cartman way by jumping the girl in question. It doesn't take long for Cartman to roll out his usual Nazi rhetoric and begin preaching the gingers are the chosen race.
Gingers are the chosen people, and we must view the rest of the world dark-skinned rats that they are.
Thank goodness he wasn't born in 1933. After that, Cartman orders his ginger army to kidnap South Park's non-ginger kids and plans a mass sacrifice in a Hilton banquet hall with a lava pit centerpiece. Sounds like a mouthful. It is a mouthful, and honestly, the plan is very much Eric Cartman. Kyle, Stan, and Kenny, meanwhile, are planning to flip the script on Cartman one more time, just for laughs, by removing all the dye and makeup while he's asleep. But just as they step out into the streets that night, they're abducted and tied up alongside the other kids who now await Cartman's fiery judgment.
My fellow gingers, the day of reckoning is finally upon us! Cartman? Oh, Jesus, I should have known.
With the preparations all set, Cartman decides that the first person to be thrown into the pit is none other than the Daywalker, because the only thing worse than a non-ginger is a half-ginger. But we all know he means something else. Just as Kyle is about to be tossed into the lava, he asks for one last audience with Cartman in private, at which point he drops the ultimate truth bomb. Cartman is not actually ginger. Which of course causes him to do a sleek 180 with a new epiphany about peace and unity.
Oh my God, you guys, I just realized something. If we go and exterminate everyone who isn't ginger, we're no better than they were for thinking less of us.
He convinces the gingers to let everyone go, breaking into a Kumbaya-style song just to seal the deal. And while everyone's singing hands in hand, Kyle whispers what we're all thinking.
You are such a manipulative asshole, Cartman. Yes, but I'm not going to die.
And that's all that matters. Now, of course, most of Cartman's schemes hover around the citywide threat level, but there are times when our boy decided to take it global.
And if you team up with the most evil thing in the universe, then clearly you are the bad guy. No, because it's for the greater good, like when Superman teamed up with Lex Luthor.
In Coon vs. Coon and Friends, Cartman takes his brand of chaotic evil to the next level by teaming up with a literal cosmic horror Cthulhu to reshape the world in his own twisted image. It all kicks off with Coon and Friends hanging out in their super secret base, also known as Cartman's Garage.
Dude, I'm sorry, but we still aren't getting it. Half man and half berry? Right!
This superhero squad includes almost every kid from South Park Elementary, minus Cartman, who got kicked out for being too much of a dictator.
So, what's going on? Go away, Cartman. We kicked you out of Coon and Friends, remember?
I mean, from the name of the group, you could have already guessed that. So naturally, the Coon decides to exact revenge, and what's a petty, power-hungry, raccoon-suited maniac to do? Join forces with the group's ultimate nemesis, Cthulhu.
The Coon teamed up with Cthulhu. Even Cthulhu knows what evil assholes Kyle and Stan and those guys are. Uncaring, phasing.
So he pulls up on the group during their meeting and convinces them to step outside so they can see a double rainbow. Basically, nature's equivalent of a clickbait thumbnail. But when the gang steps out, they're faced with Cthulhu itself.
What are you doing? He's going to help me get rid of you guys. Together we can make the world a better place.
Cartman, never the egomaniac in a raccoon suit, has Cthulhu banish his former allies into another dimension. Leaving the ancient god to do what ancient gods do best, unleash chaos. South Park has become ground zero for Cthulhu's rampage, but Cartman has a very specific hit list. Hippie festivals, Whole Foods markets, and his arch nemesis Justin Bieber.
Hippies, call you. So long, Justin Bieber, you little...
Meanwhile, in the dark dimension, Kenny, aka Mysterion, does what he does best, dies.
Ow! That
and he respawns at his home and hits up Henrietta, the female goth's house, to find out more about Cthulhu.
The only thing that can destroy an immortal is another immortal.
There he learns from them, via their copy of a book called the Necronomicon, that Cthulhu is an old god from outer space and an immortal who can only be killed by another immortal. And so normally that means that only Mysterion can defeat Cthulhu. He challenges Cthulhu and the Coon alongside Mintberry Crunch, who by the way is a part of the Coon and Friends but bailed when Cthulhu first appeared. But hey, better late than never.
You are the bad guy, fat boy. I'm going around making the world a better place. You're making it a better place for you. Right? That's what superheroes do.
I mean, he does have a point.
After that, Mysterion and Cthulhu clash, only it's not your typical Superman versus Doomsday, as this Superman actually has a death wish. Mysterion, ever the emo superhero, tries to convince Cthulhu to kill him and end his immortality curse, but not before getting the rest of the gang released. And just when you think things couldn't get any weirder, Lamal from Kaja Gugu pops up out of nowhere, claiming Mintberry Crunch is the chosen one.
Use your power, son. Save Earth. Dablagu.
Look guys, this is superhero stuff. You have no right to be confused about it. Mintberry Crunch flies in to save the day with the power of minty berries. Apparently cosmic horrors are no match for low-calorie superhero snacks. The episode wraps up with Cartman locked up with Butters, aka Professor Chaos, Mintberry Crunch soaring off into the sunset, and Mysterion respawning yet again, because what's life if not one big cosmic joke when Cartman's involved? So remember earlier when I mentioned Scott Tenman and said I didn't want to touch that mess? Well, I have no choice now, because our next episode, Scott Tenman Must Die, is the episode that pretty much inspired this whole list.
That does it. I'm going to get Scott Tenman once and for all.
Captain to viewers, this is your last chance to get off of Flight 112, because from here we're heading to the abyss. We're going straight in! It begins with Cartman in all of his delusional glory, strutting around bragging about hitting puberty because he's got pubes, which he purchased from a ninth grader called Scott Tenman for $10.
What the hell are you so happy about, fat ass? Oh, nothing. No big deal, really. It seems that I am the first one of us to reach manhood.
When Stan and Kyle drop the truth bomb that growing your own is kind of the point, Cartman's brain starts to piece together the scam.
You're telling me these pubes are worth nothing? Yeah, I'm gonna get that son of a...
So off he goes to Scott's house, demanding a refund, where he finds Scott and his friends laughing about the whole matter.
I've come to return these pubes that I purchased.
I don't take returns.
I didn't realize when I bought these pubes from you that you were full of I can go tell my mama on you.
After being clowned on and physically outmatched, Cartman slinks away, stewing in humiliation. The next day he tries again. This time Cartman channels his inner IRS agent to intimidate Scott.
My name is Chris Christopherson. I'm with the IRS.
You're not from the IRS. You glued my pubes onto your face.
Tax evasion is a very serious offense, sir.
But Scott, being a ninth grade Machiavelli, turns the tables with an impromptu math lesson.
Give me the $6, and then I'll give you the 20.
Okay.
Now, give me the pubes.
Cool.
And then give me the 20, and I'll give you the pubes.
Sweet. Ah, God damn it!
And that, kids, is why you pay attention in math class, or at least don't skip basic grifting 101. With his money lost now up to $16.12, Cartman is out for blood. From there, it's just a masterclass in failure. First, Cartman's sent on a wild goose chase to Fort Collins for a fake pube fair, again dumb as bricks.
Give me back my pubes.
Why do you want them back so much?
The pube fair in Fort Collins. They're paying $5 a hair for pubes.
$5 a hair? That's like $1 million.
Here, take your money.
I'm going to Fort Collins myself.
No!
Haha, sure you are, Scott. Haha, what a stupid asshole. $1 million. You tell me where the pube fair is?
There's no such thing, you little smartass.
No such thing?
Oh, I think this is for you.
Then he humiliates himself further by begging Scott for his money in the rain.
I'm a little piggy, here's my snack. Oink, oink, oink.
Did Cartman really think this was going to get him anywhere? Scott responds by burning the money right in front of him.
No. Why?
If Cartman had an ounce of humanity left, it was vaporized in that fire. What follows is a spiral into vengeance so twisted, even soap opera villains are taking notes. Cartman's revenge starts small by his standards, with a plan to train a pony to bite off Scott's manhood.
If we find a pony, we can train it to bite off Scott Tenman's wiener.
But it fails miserably as the horse prefers to lick the carrots.
Now bite it off! Bite off the wiener! Get pony! Oh no, pony, he'll like that.
Undeterred, Cartman switches to plan B, exploiting Scott's love for Radiohead.
Scott Tenman is totally not cool.
Wow, that really sucks for you, Scott.
And if you guess that Scott is on stage playing his own tape, then it's safe to say you know what tape he's about to play. Turns out, Oink Oink Cartman is such a hit the whole town begins dying of laughter.
Oh my god, he killed Kenny!
This, of course, pretty much sends Cartman into malfunction mode, and if you thought regular Cartman was a menace, ho ho ho, wait until you see this new version.
Yes, it is the most genius plan ever. Scott Tenman is going to wish he never met me!
And now we dance with the devil.
With Radiohead supposedly coming to town because Scott has cancer in his ass.
Scott is 15, and I'm afraid he has cancer in his ass.
The stage is set for the ultimate showdown. Cartman pulls together a chili cook-off, naming Scott as the guest of honor.
Hey. Hello, Scott. I was just stopping by to invite you to my Chili Con Carnival.
Naturally, Scott's not showing up empty-handed. He's cooking up his own master stroke, literally. His plan? Lace Cartman's chili with the pubic hair from every kid in town. Because clearly, Scott has a unique fixation on pubes.
You bring the goods? There's pubes from just about every kid in town in here.
But before the big day, Stan and Kyle, staunch members of the Anti-Cartman League, drop a dime to Scott. They warn him of Cartman's latest harebrained scheme to train a pony to chow down on his tender bits.
Eric Cartman, the fourth grader, into getting your wiener bitten off by a pony that lives at Denkin's Ranch.
So Scott, taking this as a cue, convinces his parents to whisk the poor pony off to an animal shelter, effectively neutering Cartman's plan. Pun intended.
Your mom and I can go get the pony and have it taken to an animal shelter.
Fast forward to the cook-off, Scott arrives ready to serve up humiliation, but Cart ambushes him, insisting that he be a tasting judge, and the two kids go to the judging table.
All right, I guess we should taste each other's chili, huh?
This chili looks pretty good. Here's mine.
And so it looks like once again, Cartman has played himself into a corner, only this time around, he's one step ahead of Scott.
Ah, this is really good, Scott.
Now that you're almost finished, I have something to tell you.
You mean about how you put pubes in your chili?
What?
At which point, Cartman reveals these planned things all along, right from knowing that Kyle and Stan would snitch on him. And so he'd switch Scott's chili for a regular chili from Chef.
Yes, I'm afraid this isn't your chili, Scott. I switched it with Chef.
Which just begs the question at this point, what has Scott been wolfing down?
I assumed that they would tell you that I had trained Denkin's pony to bite off your wiener. Denkins is a crazy redneck who shoots trespassers on sight.
So the rest of the plan is too intricate to explain in one go, so let's just cut to the big reveal.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
I made you eat your parents. Nya, 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 nya.
Cartman had Scott Tenman's family killed, made into chili, only for him to eat it over $16. And just to sprinkle some extra salt in this already gaping, unrecoverable wound, Radiohead finally shows up, only to call Scott a loser and send him into a fresh wave of tears.
Come on, guys, let's go. This kid is totally not cool.
Little crybaby.
He cries even further, and Cartman drinks it all up, leaving us with one final lesson at the end of the episode.
I think it might be best for us to never piss Cartman off again. Good call.
So it's safe to say that no matter where you stand with Cartman, there's a chance that his evil schemes are more than any of us could ever handle. And speaking of schemes, check out this other video to see just how wild some of these other characters can get.